Hi, welcome to Lobos Talking to Lobos. I am Camila and I'm here with
Hilary, Mariana.
And Mr. Baker.
Today we're going to be talking about our experiences with podcasting.
I'm going to start out with kind of the interview portion. So I'll be asking the girls some different questions. My first question is, why did you decide to join Lobo Media? We'll start with Mariana.
Well, I wanted to join because I want more active programs on my resume for high school.
Fancy. Camila, why did you join? You just joined a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I wanted to join because I wanted more experience with podcasting, and if I grow up, I do want to do some podcasts when I'm older also.
Very cool. Hilary, why did you join Lobo Media?
There was a portion why I wanted to do it because of the resume, and I find it very interesting, and I've never done something like this too.
Awesome. So we've been doing kind of a media club. It was Learn 9 News, which is now Lobo News, for about 5 years before this. But I thought it would be kind of cool to incorporate the podcast in, partly because it's very limited the number of people who can be on a news team. But with the podcast, we can open it up, and now we started with about 20 some people, and we've got 4 different podcasts that we have going throughout the year, so that's kind of cool. What has your experience been like creating podcasts for the first time? Hilary, I'll start with you.
I think it's really fun because we get to create our own questions and we get to pick who we want to interview, and I just feel more independent about it.
Great, Camila.
I already forgot.
It's okay. What have you been in one of the podcasts yet?
Yeah, I've only
have?
been in one.
Which one were you in?
With David and Dakota.
Oh, okay. So you were in the podcast where they talked about the high school preparation and that type of thing. So, what was it jumping into your first podcast that was interesting to you, or what was it like recording that podcast for the first time?
It was very nervous because it was my first time, so I felt awkward, and since there's people around us, it's even more awkward.
Oh, have you ever recorded yourself before and heard your voice back?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
All right, Mariana. What about you?
Doing this podcast helped me get out of my comfort zone because everyone's watching while we're doing it. So it was kind of embarrassing, but I'm starting to get used to it, and I think it's very fun.
Right. I remember the first time I started really making videos of myself was pandemic times. When we were all at home for that first spring, because I was doing STEM, we weren't having class. So I had to find some way to spend my time. So I started making vlogs for our, I don't know if you guys remember some of the vlogs, where I made towers out of toilet paper tubes and on big camera and stuff like that. And it was weird the first time because, it's weird seeing yourself. You're like, that's what I look like. That's what my background looks like in my house. That's what I sound like, right? But then eventually you forget about that, and you kind of get used to just talking, and you forget that the camera's even there. So we've done a couple podcasts so far. We've done our interview podcast, which you've all been a part of for the most part. We've had Wake Up Lobos, which has done a whole bunch of crazy things like a trivia podcast, and we did a whole bunch of weird podcasts. Yeah. That's kind of a hodgepodge of podcasts. We've had the podcast where they were talking about the different sports and clubs. Of all the podcasts that we've done so far, which one do you think is your favorite, Camila?
My favorite is the Miss Brown one because it's very interesting. There's some cool questions also.
Okay, Mariana, what do you think?
Mine was the Ms. Brown one also because I found out a lot of stuff that I didn't know when I was interviewing her.
Joy?
I also like Miss Brown one, but I also like this one right now because I just find it a little bit more we get to do our own opinion this time and not just interviewing another person.
Cool. Yeah, what I like about this podcast is we can cover a lot of different topics, and I can hear your perspectives. It's outside of the classroom, right?
Yeah.
Because when we're in class and I ask a question, I usually get a bunch of blank stares for 5 minutes. Then somebody says something weird and everybody laughs, and then I lose everybody. But with this, we had in the end of February, we had a Black History Month podcast where we actually talked to 3 different generations of people and got their different perspectives. So we talked to one of our team members, Sydney. She interviewed her dad. Her dad grew up in the 50s and the 60s. So it was cool to hear that perspective. That's not something I would normally hear, and it's not something everybody's going to hear about in school. I think my favorite of our podcasts so far was probably the trivia podcast. That was like chaotic insanity. So if you go back and listen to that podcast, you can hear everybody forgets that we're recording and we're just playing the game, and people are like yelling at each other. No, I thought I got that one. No, it's my turn. I hit the button first. Right. So that was really fun. With your podcasts, I'm sure you just sit down and click play and you record and you get everything perfect on the first try, right?
No.
No.
So what is the process been like from coming up with the ideas to writing out bullet points in the script to recording to editing? What has the whole thing been like for you? We'll start with Tilari.
Well, we would always have mistakes, and sometimes we would put our questions in the wrong order, so we had to switch things up. And if we're doing our first try, and we would do like different types of mistakes, and then we would have to do it again. So it's frustrating sometimes, but it's actually really fun.
Mariana, have you had any bloopers?
Yes, very much. And I've even had a blooper on the news where Kilari was making this face, and then I said "ew" out loud, and it's still in the video. I'm pretty sure till this day.
Camille, I know you've only recorded one so far, but what has your experience been like being the new kid on the team?
It's fun, but also, like Kalari said, it's frustrating because a lot of people, like, since you're, like, filming in front of people, it's also kind of embarrassing. And then since you're, like, also recording, you, like, start to stutter a lot. Like, if you look at the words, you, like, think, like, this word is going to go next, and then this word is
Like
going
you
to
follow the script.
Yeah, like, sometimes you don't follow the script.
Right. And what have I told you about scripting things?
We should not
Bullet
do that
point.
anymore.
Right. Do
Yeah.
bullet points. Otherwise, it sounds like, hello, welcome to our podcast. My name is Mariana, and I'm here with Camila. Right. We don't want to sound like Google Voice. We want to sound like real people.
It's
Right?
very easier though, because now it's just basically we're having a conversation in real life. So now
Yeah.
we're not looking at the computer and just
Yeah,
reading.
that's actually one of the reasons why I like this podcast right now.
Yeah.
Right. You guys get to practice your speaking skills
Mhm.
Yes.
outside of saying things like she ate or whatever TikTok stuff comes up in your brain. All right. Is there anything else that any of you want to add? We'll go around one more time. Any other thoughts on the podcasts, or maybe what you're looking forward to, or any ideas that you might have for future podcasts? Mariana, any ideas?
Not really.
Okay. We had a podcast that we were going to record today. What were you going to record?
It was interviewing Mr. Heger, but we had a slight problem.
Delay.
We just had to reschedule.
And we were scared that you were going to yell at us.
When have I ever yelled at you on a podcast?
A bajillion times.
I
Hey,
wouldn't really say yelling. Probably like
Sternly talking to.
Yeah.
And then you say,
Mom says,
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you talk to fifth graders.
that's Mr. Baker.
All right.
That's the
So we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Mariana, you want to take us out? Or Camila? Or Kilari?
Well, I mean, I guess that's it for today.
and thank you for listening to our podcast.
Lobos talking to Lobos.
Until next time, have a great day.